Hi, good evening. Today is, excuse me, today is December 27, 2025, and it is 8:32 p.m. U.S. Central Time. And my name is Rinaldo J. Aguiar Marcano, and I'm recording this video from my home located at the 2302 Britton Ridge Drive, Katy, Texas, 77494. And this house is located 300 feet away from the house of a gentleman by the name of Robert Mueller III, I think, who was the director of the FBI for several years. And that is very relevant to this conversation. Um, so, so first of all, I want to apologize because I didn't prepare for this demo, and I usually try to make the demos as how do I say this, as structured and thought of as I can before actually doing them. But this situation is a bit different because, and I wasn't going to record a demo today at all, but I went out to pick up some messages, and and this is a long story, right? I don't want to repeat it here, but I have different ways in which I can communicate securely. But some of them involve, and I use I use a multi-channel communication system. So it's not, I don't want to get too technical, but sometimes I have to go out to be able to complete the messages, right? So I can decrypt them. So I went, and so I'm sorry if I'm talking slow. So I'm a bit shook by what I've got. So I got some information, and it's shocking, really, right? So I don't know. I have to tell you, I just came back, right? Maybe half an hour ago, and I decrypted. I put the messages together, decrypted them, and I saw the messages maybe 10 minutes ago, right? And I've been thinking all this time whether I should say anything or not. And to be honest, I'm not sure, right? Whether this is something I should say, because it could be. It could be that maybe the information is intentionally bad, right, to make me say something that it's not true, right? Or could be that somehow they understood what I'm doing and they found a way to inject messages that are not real. It's also a possibility, right? To accomplish the same, right? To make me say something that might sound crazy, right? To then discredit me, right? And then by proxy say that everything I'm saying is not true, right? So I don't know. But on the other hand, right, the informant that sent me this has been very reliable, and in multiple occasions he has told me very important things that have been true, right, have been correct. And if this is true as well, this could be a game changer, right? Like, because this could be physical proof. This could bring them down, I think, if it pans out, right? So I don't know. But anyhow, I'm here, so obviously I made the decision to say it. So I'll say it. Well, actually, the informant told me several things, right? Like, he sent me a bunch of information. I'm not gonna disclose everything that I got, but there's two things that I'm going to disclose. One is the thing that is shocking to me, which I don't know yet if it's true. I have not verified this, but it's possible that I have a way to verify it. And the second thing, I'm going to say it because it could be a risk to me, right? And by me saying it, if they do it, it will just prove that the informant was right? But I'm going to be very careful with the second item because it's something that hasn't happened, and I don't want to accuse somebody of something that they haven't done yet, right? If they do it, I mean, but they haven't done it, right? So I can't really make an accusation. So I'm just going to say what I received, but it's it's just an information from an informant, right? Like, and it hasn't happened to my knowledge, right? And I think I would have known today if it happened. So anyhow, um, I'll tell you those two things. But my intention of doing this is to timestamp the first observation, really. So the first message the first information that I got, because I would like to record that I got this information today, and as I said, it's December 27, 8:37 p.m. U.S. Central Time, and I have not made any efforts to find if this is true or not. Right? Yet, I'm of course going to do it. But if I find it, I want it to be recorded that I got this information before finding it. Right? It's also possible that I don't find it. Right? Which in that case, I may look like an idiot. Right? So I'm going to go on a limb here a little bit. Sorry, it's just that this is too shocking, right? So what the informant told me, the first thing that I want to tell you, he told me that in this house there is a letter, okay? That it's and he described. I'm going to tell you what he described, right? He described the letter. He told me what to look for. I haven't found it, but I'm going to look for it, okay? And he described what it contains. I'm going to tell you, okay? So it's supposedly a letter. It could be in one or multiple pieces of paper. And it's a special kind of paper that burns very fast. It's not regular paper. It's like, and I'm sorry, like, I went to school back in Venezuela, and I don't know what these things are called in English, right? But it's that kind of paper that is kind of, how do you describe it? It's like copy paper. I think could be a translation. I don't know. It's a kind of paper that it's kind of I think it's a vegetable-based paper. In Spanish, we call it papel cebolla. That's what we call it, right? It's a kind of paper that it has several properties. One is that if you touch it, it becomes wrinkled very fast, right? It's not very firm. It's also a little bit translucent. Like if you put it against the light, you can see across. And it burns very fast. Like if you put a match to it, if you put a lighter to it, it will burn very quickly, faster than regular paper. So he told me that this is a letter that it's made in that specific kind of paper, okay? And this letter supposedly is signed by Nelio Espina, okay? And it's a letter that is backdated. It's dated decades ago, supposedly, right? This is what the letter supposedly will say. If I find it, I haven't looked for it. But I think I should probably ask my former partner if this is true. I mean, save me the time, right? Like if the letter is here, tell me what it is, because I'm gonna find it anyways, right? But supposedly it's a letter signed by Nelio, right? Supposedly written decades ago. But in reality, according to the informant, this letter has encoded in the footer of the page a number bank account information, which is supposedly an emergency bank account in a foreign country. I think he said the Netherlands, or I don't know. And of course, I don't want to give too many details exactly of what he said, because if they capture any bytes, they may be able to trace it back, right? But it's a bank in Switzerland or the Netherlands, something like that, right? That has number accounts. And for people not familiar, and I don't know, I've seen this in the movies. I've never had one of those accounts. And I have to tell you, this is pretty shocking to me for several reasons. Because, well, first of all, my former partner, I mean, she's crying poverty with these courts, right? To try to make a pretext to have my bank accounts frozen, right? With that narrative, right? And it turns out that she may have a number account, right? I mean, through all my working life, I don't mean to say this to brag or anything, right? But through all my working life, right? If I count the 20-something years that I've worked for these people when they employed me in all these companies, right? If I sum all the money that I made across my adult life, it's probably a few $1,000,000, right? And even in those circumstances, I have never had a number account. And it turns out that she may have a number account. Imagine that. And she's crying poverty with these courts to have my account frozen, right? But anyhow, according to the informant, this piece of paper, this letter, really, its purpose is to encode the information of a secret bank account that they have for cases of emergencies like this, right? If I mean, this is what I'm inferring from the conversation, right? From the messages. If the agent needs to be extracted, right, gets in trouble and doesn't have access to money, they can always go and with those numbers, get the money, right? So for people that don't know, and this is honestly what I get from the movies, because I've never had one of these accounts, but apparently there are some accounts that are numbered, right? In some countries, they have this, they allow this, right? Where you can have an account that if you know the numbers and the password, you can get the money. Like you don't have to show an ID, it's just whoever has the numbers and the password gets the money, right? So this supposedly is one of those accounts. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because, well, if this is true, well, I mean, this could be a nuclear weapon for authorities because, well, first of all, that money is traceable, right? If that money is really, if that account exists, if that letter exists, and I know it's a lot of ifs, but if the letter exists and it really has an account number, and that account number does exist, and the money is there, that must be traceable, right? And I imagine with the investigative powers of federal government, they could probably trace who put that money there and when, right? Now, I have no way to verify this. Again, I even haven't found the letter, right? I haven't even looked for it. But according to the informant, the money could be traceable directly to the Moleros, right? Directly, according to the informant. So, I mean, it could be a nuclear weapon, right? If that letter does exist. So, but the description of the letter, according to the informant, is going to be in this special paper signed by Nelio, but Nelio is not really the father, right? The informant told me that, right? The Nelio is not the father. So all this is a theater, right? The real father is Humberto, I think is his name, I don't know. Humberto Molero, right? And Zuleima Villasmir Molero, right? Those are the real parents, apparently. So that's why I'm saying that, this is shocking to me, right? Like, how is it possible that, I mean, if I do find this letter, right, I hope I don't find it, to be honest with you, because if I find it, I'm going to be confronted with physical evidence of a deception that it's hard to comprehend. I mean, my brain is not able to process this, right? I'm sure I will be able to process it, but it will take me some time, right? A few days, I don't know, right? But I'm thinking of the prospect of finding this letter tonight, and if I find it, I think that, I mean, just thinking about that possibility gets me into sort of a shock state, right? Because imagine the level of deception this is, right? It means that I don't even know her name. Right? It means that the child doesn't know the name of his mother. It means that the data on the birth certificate of the child is false, is fake. That certificate is invalid. I mean, and it means that the level of planning of this is something that I cannot even comprehend. Because if somebody had the foresight to put that amount of money, I don't know what is the amount of money. I don't know if the account even exists, but if it does exist, and if it's a number account in Switzerland or the Netherlands, I don't know where, I imagine, right, it has to be in the millions of dollars. Like, I don't think somebody can open a number account with $500, right? So if somebody had the foresight, right, to put a large amount of money in a cipher account, number account, I don't know how they call it in English, but one of these special accounts in a country like Switzerland where there's bank secrecy, right? With a large amount of money, foreseeing that a situation could unfold in a decade, right? I mean, this is clearly, right, a state level planning from day one, right? Because to be honest, at this point, right, until this point, I haven't found this letter, right? But if I found it, this question is going to be resolved in my mind. But until this point, I mean, I know that she's collaborating with them, obviously, right, because of the harassment with the courts and all that. But I don't know when she got involved, right? If it was last year, if it was 6 months ago, if it was 5 years ago, like I have no way to tell, really, right? But if this money is there and this is traceable, it also puts a timeline, right, to it. So when was this money put into that account? So anyhow, I'm going to look for that letter, of course, and if I find it, I'm going to send it to the IRS immediately. But to be honest, I'm in a state of shock. Now, the second thing that the informant told me was, and this is the other thing that I was telling you at the beginning. Sorry, I bit my lip and it hurts a little bit. I was telling you at the beginning that it's something that hasn't happened, and I don't want to make any accusations or anything. So it hasn't happened, right? But this is something that I was warned about, that it was being planned for. So this is the plan they have. Okay, this is the way it was presented to be. So apparently, the plan is that they're going to try to fabricate criminal charges against me, leveraging my former partner, and the allegation is going to be sexual assault. Imagine that. So, I mean, I think if they do this, it's going to show desperation, really, right? Because, I mean, she has already called me crazy, right? Took the child, harassed me with different courts. And now it's going to be an accusation of rape, right? I mean, this is just, it wouldn't be more clear that this is harassment, right? But anyhow, what the informant told me, it hasn't happened, right? I haven't been accused of anything. I haven't had any contact with her that would justify that accusation. But apparently, right, that's the plan. Like that's the last resort that they have in mind, because they haven't been able to do any of the things that they have tried to do, like with the gag order, the gag clause in the mediation contract, or then the HIPAA clause in the supposed temporary orders, which, by the way, would be invalid because they are in those orders. They mention her name, and that's not really her name, right? So those orders are invalid, even if they were. I mean, they're invalid because they were signed when the court had no jurisdiction. But even if they were signed with jurisdiction, that order is invalid because that's not the name of the person, right? It's an alias. But anyhow, I was warned, right? But what I was told was that, if I were you, I would, not go even near that direction, right? Because they're going to make a claim that you force her into something, right? Again, I don't know if this is true, right? It would be pretty shocking, to be honest, right? That somebody, would make such a terrible accusation against another person, knowing that it's not true, and particularly given the current situation. But as I said, right, I'm already in shock because of the first thing, of the letter, right, from supposedly Nelio Espina, which I'm going to look for and send to the IRS if I do find it. So, if they do make those, those charges, right? Because anybody, I think those, and I have to run the legal pipeline. I'm going to turn on the servers to run their pipeline to see how would that unfold. Because, like, I don't know what is the burden of proof that a woman would need to make those charges. Like, I don't know, right? If it's just her say, right? Like, if she just says that something happened, automatically the person gets arrested. I don't know, right? But we have to take into account that I'm in this environment where everything is under control, right? So, what are the boundaries of enforcement of those kind of claims doesn't necessarily apply in this environment, is what I'm trying to say. So I don't know. But to put this in context, right, why is that they're doing this? Is because of the following. And this demo is going to be very short. I'm just going to tell you those two things, and I'm going to show you something that I've been working on. The reason why I do believe that it's possible that they're planning to do those kind of claims is because they're desperate. And the informant also told me how desperate they are. The reason why they're so desperate is, if you rewind to March 2025, they took the child when I started doing research and reverse geocoding the addresses of the prominent people in Caracas, Beijing, Moscow, La Habana, and Tehran. Right? That's when they took the child. Right? That's when they went nuclear. And at the time, I was doing that research, and I was just compiling the data sets and putting links in my website, which they could suppress, right? Because they have technology to suppress, any website, right? So at that time, even knowing that they could suppress the information by suppressing the website, they took the step of taking the child, right? Which I now understand that it wasn't really a customized solution to me. It's just a standardized procedure that they have, right? Whoever speaks, they take the child, right? In whatever context, right? That's why it results in 700 plus children taken in Texas in 2025, according to the statistics that we saw in the previous demos. But anyhow, right, they have been distracting me with the harassment with the courts and the temporary orders, all that, right? And they have, in a way, right, because I've been making these demos, but I haven't kept, researching, the hubs in their countries, right? So in a way, they were successful at that, right? But, in one of the demos recently, I said, all this has been a distraction. When I saw that they do this at a scale to shut up people, to silence people, to coerce witnesses and silence them, I understood that all this was a campaign of witness tampering and coercion, right? So when I saw that, I said, well, what is that triggered the witness tampering? It was the fact that I was researching agents and positions in their countries, right? That's what triggered it. Not even when I was researching the positions in Ukraine, because I started by doing Ukraine. That was, because at this point, if you have watched the videos, you will see that I do. I'm how do I say this? I'm sensitive to human suffering, right? If I know that people are being killed in Ukraine and I have this database and I could expose how they're using it to kill people in Ukraine, the first thing I did was to expose that, right? That's the first data set I computed. And when I did that, they did not take the child. That was in January 2025. And all this is verifiable by looking at my account in Google Cloud. They did not take the child, right? But the minute I started looking at addresses in Caracas, Beijing, Tehran, and La Habana, Cuba, yes, and Caracas, they took the child, right? Within days, within 2 days. So obviously, right, that's what hurts, right? Because this is me speculating, but I imagine that they foresee that if 99% of the country knows where the locations are and who are the people that are harassing them and doing this to everybody, they will go after them, right? So it's an existential threat to them, really, because it's easy to do this that they're doing to people in the US because they are over there, right? But if they're surrounded by millions of people, right? So if these people get the knowledge, they're in danger, right? Where are they going to hide? From this, sea of human beings that are going to be after them, right? So I understood, right? So of course, what I did over the last 2 days is that I started doing the same thing I was doing before they took the child, meaning building these data sets in these cities, right? Where they are: Caracas, La Habana, Beijing, Moscow. But this time I did it better. Instead of putting the links in the website, I created books. And what I did, I designed these books as a directory, exactly as the Yellow Pages. Okay, the same design principle, right? So remember the Yellow Pages from the 90s, right? It was this huge book that 500 pages or so, and it was separated by the first letter of the person name and last name, right? Last name and name. And you could find alphabetically people and then map it to a phone number, right? Exactly the same idea, but I did it with the addresses instead of names. I have the addresses, right, of the locations, the houses, right, or the building numbers. And instead of a phone number, I'm mapping them to the score in the geo index, right? And I'm building these directories by city. And I started doing this 2 days ago. And so far, I have like 10 cities, right? And I started doing the same cities that I know that they care about, right? Caracas, Beijing, Moscow, Tehran, and La Habana. And I also did Kiev and the Donbass region, right? Where they're using this database to kill people, right? Um, so that's what I've done so far. So they are desperate because, I mean, what I'm trying to say, right? If they took the step of taking the child, when I was just publishing this on a website that they could suppress, imagine the state of mind that in which they're in right now, when this information is now in a printed book that looks like the yellow pages, right? And anybody can buy it on Amazon. Now, I have to make a note here, right? Amazon has a setting, right? So I have the book in digital format. You can download it in your Kindle, or you can buy the physical book in Amazon. All the other books, I offer them also for download for free, okay? Amazon has a setting that you can set it to restrict the downloads, okay? I set that setting for this book, and I want to explain why, because that might be misunderstood or misconstructed. People might think that it's because I don't, I'm trying to make money off the book. That's not the reason. The reason is because I know them, like I know how they think, and I imagine the thing that they're going to do if I make the book available in a free channel that people can download it and forward it like that. What they're going to do is that they're going to manipulate the book, and they're going to create fake books with wrong information to create confusion, right? I'm sure that's what they're going to do, right? So that's why I need to keep the distribution tight, right? To make sure that they can manipulate the information that is inside of the book. I'm saying this because I encourage you to buy the book on Amazon, even if it costs a little bit of money, because you're going to be sure that you're getting the right information, right? If you download it from a website, it could be them giving you fake addresses, right, with fake numbers to discredit the information or to hide the important people, right, from you. So that's the reason why I set that setting, right? After I'm able to get this across, right, to the authorities, there might be other ways to distribute this in a way that it's verifiable, right? Like signing the package. Like, there's technology solutions that I know that exist, but I don't want to apply any of those things because it would just increase the difficulty for people of getting the information, right? If you have to verify the signature on the file, there's a lot of people that don't know how to do that, right? So I don't want to overcomplicate things, right? So the only way that I found that I could still keep it easy and still make sure that people are getting the information correctly is setting that setting, right? But I set the price of the books to the lowest possible price. Like, I'm not making, there is Amazon tells you what is the minimum price. I had to set it like 5% above that, because if I don't, because of the conversion rate, it wouldn't be available in other countries, in some countries, because of the conversion rate is, it will fall below the cost of printing, right? So the way for me to quickly make sure that in every single country it's printable is to set the price 10% above or 5% above the minimum price that Amazon recommends. So anyhow, let me show you, right, what these books look like. Okay. So I'm going to go to Amazon.com, right? And I'm going to look for RJ Aguiar, and I named this series CIS list. Like Craigslist, but this is the list of, instead of Craigslist, this is CIS or CIS. I don't know how he pronounced his name, but this is CIS list, right? So right now I have 7 of these books, right? Oh no, this is not the one. Okay. So this is the series, right? So it's basically a global directory, right? and it's by city, right? So, for example, the first book is Beijing, right? So let me show you, for example, um, Caracas, right? So you could, it costs less than $1 to download it on your Kindle, or this one is $15.99 because it's 500 pages. Like, it's literally like the yellow books, right? Like the yellow pages. It's basically a ream of paper printed, right? But I think we can see here, right? Right. So you see how it's organized by chapters, right? And each chapter is starts, the letter by which the address starts, and but it also has other features. Like, it has a list of what are possible name markers in this city, and this is statistics, right? That I compute from the scores in the addresses that fall in this city only. And it also has a section about the top 1% by score, which are basically like the top agents, like the top people that control that area, right? Um, so here in Amazon, I want to show you that you can today, right now, get these directories basically for Beijing, China; Moscow, Russia; Caracas, Venezuela; Kiev, Ukraine; the Donbass region; Tehran, Iran. And also created one for Katy, Texas, where I am, right, and where Robert Mueller is, and where this important hub of this network is. And this is called the 77494 Katy, Texas book, right? Now I'm going to show you. I'm going to open it from my computer, right? So because it's for the reason I explained before, I cannot really see the entire book in Amazon unless I purchase it, right? And I don't have an Amazon account set up in this computer. So I'm going to, show you from. I'm going to load it from a file in my local drive. Okay. So I'm going to look for Theran, and we're going to see this example. Uh, Let me see. I don't know if you were able to see the books though. One second. Mm-mm. Yeah, let me close this window and open a new one. Okay. I'm just showing you the screen so you can see the books in Amazon, because I don't know if before it was visible to you. I lost track of the sharing window, and I couldn't verify that you saw it. So these are the books that I was showing you before. And if you click on the series, you can see all the books in the series, right? So this is exactly the same information that I was publishing on the website that triggered them taking my son. But now it's in Amazon in a printed book. Okay. And I don't have any more sons that they can take. So that's why they are thinking of the criminal charges with the rape or attempted rape allegations. I don't know exactly what is that going to say, right? But that's the reason why, because I don't have any other child that they can take. Then they don't have any weapons, right? So they have to create a new weapon, and the weapon is going to be a criminal charge for sexual battery or something like that, right? This is what the informant told me. Again, like, it hasn't happened, but could be in the works. Um, okay, so going back to, let me show you the actual book, right? An example that I want to show you. So this is what the book looks like in digital. So in some of the books, there is a chapter at the beginning that has a featured place. Like this is a place, important place that was found in the Geo Index. In this case, is a secret bunker in Iran, near the border with Afghanistan. It's a secret bunker that is not documented anywhere, right? And I found it using the Geo Index. And this is important because this shows, you know, how important this database that they use is for coordinating military operations, right? But anyhow, you can see here the list of significant name markers in this area. This is for Tehran, Iran. And if you scroll down, you get to the actual addresses, right? And you see these are the top 1% addresses by GeoIndex score, right? So these are sorted by score. There is something strange here. Okay, this is with A. These are not by score. These are alphabetical, right? So you know you have the top 1%. Those are by score, and then it starts alphabetically, and then those are sorted alphabetically. Okay, so you can really find any address very quickly using this as if it was a phone book, basically. You can find the address of your friends, of your employers, of your boss, of the judge that took your son could be here, right? Things like that. But importantly, I want to show you also the one for Katy, Texas, right? Because what I did, well, made this information public, right? So there is one book, exactly the one I showed you, but for Katy, right? This area where I am, this zip code, right? And you can see that just in this zip code, this is not the entire Katy. Katy has multiple zip codes, but just in this zip code, Diosdado Cabello has 16,000 addresses, 16,000 houses and businesses, right? Just in one zip code, and there's multiple. There's like 8 zip codes in this area. So imagine how many houses and businesses he has in Katy, right? In the southwest of Houston in general. So you can also get any address from any agent that lives in. So this right now is 77494. But of course, I'm going to keep publishing others, right? Like other zip codes until my son is returned, right? This is only going to stop when my son is returned. If it's not returned, I'm going to keep publishing cities, right? And I have no shortage of cities or ISBN numbers. I have, I could do this for years. So I don't know, something to think about. So you see, right? It's a way to make the information not only public but accessible, right, to anybody. Because to consume this information, you don't need to have a computer science degree, right? This is as easy as using a phone book, right? To that level of simplification and internationalization, I got it. And the problem they have, because what they could try to do is attack the book, right? Try to get it off Amazon, but they can't because this book has nothing. I mean, it's just a list of addresses and numbers, right? There is no one sentence in this book that can be attacked, right? From a legal point of view, from a compliance point of view, from anything, right? Like this is just a list of addresses and numbers, right? And those addresses are public information. So I'm curious to know or to see if they're going to ban Amazon in their countries, because that's one thing they could do, right? For example, in Caracas, right, or in Venezuela in general, the government could say we're going to block Amazon, and but that would be pretty ironic because Amazon is a big part of this network, right? It would be like blocking. It would be like cutting one of your arms, like something like that, right? But I'm curious to see to what level of desperation they are or they get to see if they take that step. Because they will have to block Amazon, right? Well, maybe they can block it at the URL level, so just block the book, but they will show targeting, right? So that would legitimize the book. So if they're gonna block, they will have to block the entire domain, right? So it doesn't look like the book is telling the truth, right? So I don't know. It's quite a pickle they're in. But anyhow, the informant told me that they're desperate because of this information being published in these books, right? And that's why they are again, now trying to circle back to the third level of escalation, which is the criminal charges. Right now, it's not going to be with little children. It's going to be with the former partner. Right. Anyhow, let's see if they do it. I don't know. Right. But so I wanted to show you the books, right? So to let people know that they're there. And I'm going to keep working on this until that judgment from the Supreme Court of Texas comes out. Like, I will keep investing all my energy in producing series until that decision comes out. And it should come out soon, because I mean, they made that theater of the indigency claims, and that has a deadline, which is the last of the month, because she has to pay rent. I mean, not taking action is also problematic, right? So I don't know. I imagine the decision must be coming in soon. So I'll but until that happens, I'm gonna keep working on the series. So it's kind of eeny, meeny, miny, mo, basically what I'm doing, right? I need to pick, right, where to hit them. So I don't know. I'm gonna use one of my random selection processes to do that. So anyhow, I'm gonna keep working on my red book. But of course, I'm going to make a pause, and I'm going to start looking for that letter right now to see if I find it. Okay. If I find it, I'm going to immediately send it to the IRS. Now I have to run the legal vaccine, because I don't want. I'm obviously not going to send this to the IRS making any sort of assertions about what is in the what is the bank account number. Like I think that's the job of the IRS to determine, right? They should do an investigation and see if that's really a bank account or not, right? I'm just going to present it as, if I find it, as potential evidence, right? And let them decide the value that they assign to it. But it's really shocking, right, to see the level of deception, right? Because if this is true, it means that I don't even know her name. So anyhow, with that, I'm going to close this short demo. Think about this. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you on the next demo. Bye.